He came, he opened the door, and he was screaming, "Come on, help me, somebody shot my mother and father." And everyone ran out of the bar, and that was it. They all took off. No, I had to stay, I was tending bar. They all jumped in his car and took off.
Today, police combed the DeFeo's handsome three-story house for clues while divers explored the backyard swimming pool for the still unfound murder weapon. Police have been questioning the son Ronald and now say he is being, quote, safeguarded. Investigators say without explanation that they now feel young DeFeo was in the house at the time of the murders, but they're not yet considering him a suspect. And so forth.
No suspect at this time. We have no indication of the motive at this time.
What about Ronald DeFeo, the son, the surviving son?
Ronald is being safeguarded by the Suffolk County Police at this time.
Why safeguarded?
Why? Because the 6 members of the family dead, and we don't know why, and he's the sole remaining member.
Is he also a suspect?
He's not a suspect at this time.
Few people in the neighborhood knew the family well, but those who did described them as close-knit.
Well, I think they were just very sweet, very religious people, very family-minded people. And that's about all I could say. Very good, very generous, this type. I mean, very close with their children.
There's one element in the usual mass murder story which seems to be missing from this case. There's no sense of fear in this community. No feeling of a mass murderer on the loose. People we talked to seem to feel that whatever was the motive for this crime, it had something to do with the family. It's not something that's going to return to bother anyone else. In Amityville, Long Island, Phil Barno, News Center 4.
The tale of Ronald DeFeo Jr. and the Amityville murders is a dark chapter in the annals of American crime. On the night of November 13th, 1974, the quiet suburb of Amityville, New York, was shattered by a series of brutal murders that would forever stain its serene image. Ronald DeFeo Jr., known to his friends and family as Butch, was the eldest son of 5 siblings. To the outside world, they seemed like an average middle-class family living in a beautiful Dutch colonial house on 112 Ocean Avenue. But behind closed doors, the household was a pressure cooker of conflict and tension, largely due to Ronald DeFeo Sr., the patriarch, whose domineering and abusive behavior created a volatile environment. On that fateful night, Ronald, driven by a toxic cocktail of anger, resentment, and possible influence of substances, decided to take matters into his own hands. Armed with a .35 caliber Marlin rifle, he systematically murdered his entire family while they slept. His parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise DeFeo, and his siblings, Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John Matthew, were all shot in their beds, defenseless and unaware of their impending doom. The motive behind this horrifying act has been the subject of much speculation and analysis.
There was nothing but bad in that house. I was going to burn it to the ground. That's the truth. I was going to burn it to the ground. I just pray to God it don't happen to nobody else. That's why I told you. Anybody buys that house and got kids and move in there, come on, man. You really gotta be something wrong.
In December 1975, just over a year after the gruesome DeFeo murders, George and Kathy Lutz, along with Kathy's 3 children from a previous marriage, Daniel, Christopher, and Missy, moved into the Dutch colonial house, hopeful for a new beginning. They were aware of the house's dark history, but were attracted to the property's low price and its picturesque setting. Almost immediately after moving in, the Lutz family began to experience a series of bizarre and terrifying phenomena. According to their accounts, they reported mysterious and foul odors that would permeate the house, and cold spots in various rooms, especially in areas where the murders had taken place. Despite the winter season, the house was often filled with swarms of flies, particularly in the sewing room where Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s sisters had been killed. George Lutz claimed to hear banging noises, footsteps, and other inexplicable sounds throughout the night. The most controversial and eerie prospect entered as evidence is the photograph of a young child captured on camera near the stairwell on the second floor of the controversial home. The Lutz 5-year-old daughter, Missy, claimed to see this entity regularly and referred to him as Jody.
It's a little boy looking out of the room, as near as we can tell. When we asked Missy if she knew who this was, she said, yes, that's Jody. He would come and play with me. Missy's the only one that ever saw this little boy, except for Kathy's sister-in-law, did see a little boy in that room one night. He was blue. He didn't look like this.
George, in particular, experienced severe personality changes. He became obsessed with keeping the fireplace burning and reportedly exhibited increasingly aggressive behavior.
At one point, I kind of sat up and let out two distinct sounds at the same time. And I knew when it was happening, it couldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be able to do this physically. One was what I described as a low moaning wail. It was from deep within inside of me. What I would maybe try to describe as the core of me. Not that conscious person that walks around talking. And at the same time I was saying the words, it's in Chris's room, it's in Chris's room. But I couldn't get up off the bed. I could not get out of bed and go up there. Overhead at one point, the boys' beds you can hear them, they're being lifted up and slammed down on the floor over us. But I still could not get up, and Kathy wouldn't wake up. Harry is walking in circles, puking, laying down, walking in circles, puking. And there's no getting up to help him. When that one night was over, I was unable to communicate to anyone else in a rational way what had gone on, what we had experienced. The boys came down the next morning and they still talk of this very occasionally, but they do, about what went on for them, what they saw, what happened up there. And that's their story, and I won't tell you that. That's for them to do. They're adults now. But that was the end for me in terms of I'm not afraid of this, or I can deal with this. I knew then I could not deal with this. So you asked for it, that was it.
They described a greenish slime oozing from the walls and keyholes, and black goo emerging from the toilets. The family reported seeing ghostly apparitions and witnessing objects move on their own. Kathy claimed to have been physically attacked and levitated from her bed, while George often woke at 3:15 a.m., the approximate time Ronald DeFeo murdered his family. Kathy discovered a hidden room in the basement, which was not part of the original house plans. This small, eerie space was believed by George to be a portal to another world or a center of supernatural activity.
Some of you remember the red room from the movie? Well, this was actually red. There's a bookcase here in front of it. Kathy found it one day when she was putting things away. She called me at my office and said, "You won't believe what I just found, a room behind a bookcase." Our dog Harry, who was a black lab, would not go here. He would not go in this part of the house. There were smells that came from here. Some smell like open sewer pipe most of the time, but not always.
After just 28 days, the Lutz family fled the house, leaving their possessions behind. They cited the escalating paranormal events as the reason for their abrupt departure. Their harrowing experiences were later chronicled in Jay Anson's 1977 book, The Amityville Horror, which became a bestseller and was adapted into a popular film in 1979.
It's the kind of house they don't build anymore. A relic of a time when the world wasn't in such a hurry, when there was still time for a little charm and elegance. It has stood empty for a long while, and at the price, it is a bargain. For a growing young family, it is almost too good to be true.
What do you think?
I love it.
James Brolin, Margot Kidder, Rod Steiger in The Amityville Horror.
However, the veracity of their claims has been hotly contested. Critics, including subsequent owners of the house, have reported no unusual occurrences, suggesting that the story was fabricated for financial gain. Investigations by paranormal experts have yielded mixed results, with some corroborating their experiences, while others have dismissed them as hoaxes.
Christopher Quaratino is the little boy in both the new movie version and the 1979 original, starring James Brolin and Margot Kidder. But he says both movies are far from accurate. This scene, for instance. That didn't happen.
Again, that's Hollywood portraying the story.
Or this one. Were there swarms of flies?
There was definitely a lot of flies, nothing again like what Hollywood's portraying it.
The youngest son, Christopher, has made statements claiming his stepfather, George Lutz, embellished the details of the hauntings and went as far as to file a lawsuit against his stepfather for claims made of their experiences.
Quaratino attributes much of the Amityville hype over the years to his adopted father. He claims Lutz exaggerated stories of the house being haunted to help write the book, which started the Amityville phenomenon. In fact, they're now suing each other. Maybe a judge can get to the bottom of what really happened in that house.
Despite the skepticism, the story of the Lutz family has left an indelible mark on popular culture. It raises intriguing questions about the nature of fear, the power of suggestion, and the possibility of the supernatural. Whether viewed as a genuine haunting or a carefully constructed tale, the legacy of the Lutz family's brief stay in